A young woman stood perfectly still, facing a room full of hardened commanders. Whispers cut the air, judging her before she spoke a single word. No one moved to offer her a seat. She remained standing, a solitary figure against a tide of doubt. This is a story about silent strength and how true respect is always earned, never given. Lieutenant Anya Sharma arrived at precisely 0800 hours for the high-stakes strategic planning session for Operation Ironclad. Her uniform was impeccably crisp. Dark hair pulled back into a neat, regulation bun. Her eyes held a steady, quiet focus, betraying no hint of nerves or self-consciousness. At just 28, she was unmistakably the youngest person in the vast, wood-paneled conference room. Every other large, plush chair around the gleaming mahogany table was occupied by men, many of whom seemed to be twice her age. Their chests were adorned with rows of colorful ribbons, and their faces were etched with the lines that spoke of decades spent in command positions. These were colonels, majors, and high-ranking analysts, their voices a low murmur of shared experience as they discussed complex operational maps spread across the table. They spoke with the casual familiarity of those who knew each other well, comfortable in their established hierarchy. Anya was an undeniable outsider in this environment. Her expertise stemmed not from the traditional battlefield, but from the silent, intricate world of advanced data analysis and unseen digital networks. Her groundbreaking work in predictive threat modeling, a skill few in the room genuinely understood, was why she had been assigned to this critical program. Yet, the moment she stepped inside, the murmuring conversation instantly ceased. Heads turned in her direction, not with a welcoming nod, but with overt curiosity tinged with a clear hint of skepticism. A few officers exchanged knowing glances, a subtle, almost imperceptible roll of the eyes passing between them. No one offered a greeting, no one gestured toward an empty seat, despite several being available among the rows of plush chairs. Anya simply walked to an unoccupied space near the back wall, slightly removed from the main table, and stood. Her posture was ramrod straight, hands clasped loosely behind her back in the precise parade rest position. She seemed almost invisible to the group, or perhaps they collectively chose to treat her as such. The air was thick with unspoken questions about her unexpected presence, and the general assumption was undeniably clear. She was merely here to observe, to fulfill a temporary slot, certainly not to contribute anything of value. Her unwavering calm and patience, however, appeared to confuse them even more than her unanticipated arrival. She simply waited. The briefing officially began, yet Lieutenant Sharma remained standing, a silent, unmoving presence at the back of the large room. The lead major, a man with a booming voice that easily filled the space, launched into the complex details of Operation Ironclad. He gestured animatedly towards the digital projections and intricate flowcharts displayed on the main screen. Anya's eyes followed every line, absorbing each piece of information with an intense, quiet concentration that seemed to betray her young age. Meanwhile, low whispers started to spread, barely audible but distinct, circulating through the assembled officers. "Is she just here to take notes for someone else?" one officer muttered, his sarcasm clear. "Seems a bit young for this level of clearance," another whispered back, his gaze lingering on Anya for a moment longer than polite. No one spoke directly to her during the initial phase of the briefing, nor did anyone even glance her way for input or acknowledgement. When a large, detailed map of the operational zone was passed around the gleaming table, it moved from hand to hand, carefully skipping over Anya as if her presence was simply not registered, or more pointedly, deliberately ignored. Later, during a tense discussion about a particularly challenging intelligence gap, a seasoned colonel leaned back in his plush chair, letting out a loud, frustrated sigh. "We truly need people with actual boots-on-the-ground understanding for this kind of challenge," he declared, his voice carrying clearly across the room. "Not just numbers on a screen." His eyes flicked pointedly towards Anya, a clear, unmistakable message delivered through his dismissive tone. It was a thinly veiled jab, specifically designed to underscore her perceived lack of real-world experience and to firmly put her in what he believed was her rightful place. Anya showed no outward reaction to the pointed remark. Her expression remained perfectly neutral, her focus unwavering from the presentation. She did not fidget, did not sigh in response, nor did she even blink at the casual cruelty. She simply continued to listen, a quiet presence that seemed to absorb every word, every subtle slight, without internalizing the offense. Her stillness, instead of betraying any weakness or discomfort, began to project an unnerving strength. She was not rattled, she was merely present, observing their every move and waiting. The strategic session quickly hit a major snag. The discussion turned to a truly complex and unpredictable segment of the planned operation. A specific network of enemy movements intertwined with difficult terrain that completely defied their current analytical models. The projected outcomes kept failing, no matter how many variables the senior officers tried to adjust. Frustration visibly built around the table. Arguments erupted over conflicting data and intelligence reports that seemed outdated for the evolving situation. Hands pointed impatiently at maps and digital displays, searching for answers. "We're missing something absolutely crucial here," one major exclaimed, his hands slamming down onto the table in exasperation. "Our current models simply aren't accounting for this level of unexpected variability and hidden factors." The room descended into a tense, uneasy silence, everyone looking for a solution, a new angle, anything that could possibly break the stubborn deadlock they faced. Just as the tension reached its breaking point, a clear, authoritative voice cut through the strained quiet of the room. It came not from one of the seated officers, but from a speaker mounted discreetly on the far wall, belonging to a remote command center. "Colonel Vance," the voice stated with calm precision, "Lieutenant Sharma has a unique perspective on this specific data set. She has been monitoring these patterns and their anomalies for the past several weeks, using her specialized models." Every single head in the room instantly snapped towards Anya, who still stood perfectly still and composed at the back. The major who had slammed the table stared, his mouth slightly open in genuine surprise. The colonel who had scoffed about numbers on a screen narrowed his eyes, a clear expression of disbelief on his face. No one in the room had even realized she was formally assigned to this specific, critical part of the operation, let alone that she possessed insights so directly relevant to their current impasse. The sudden shift in atmosphere was palpable. The air changed from a heavy frustration to a collective jolt of stunned realization. All eyes now fixed with intense scrutiny on the quiet lieutenant who had been so pointedly ignored just moments before. With all eyes now fixed on her, Lieutenant Sharma calmly walked toward the main briefing screen. She moved without any rush or outward sign of nervousness. Picking up the stylus, she began to sketch out a series of interconnected diagrams directly onto the whiteboard, all without once consulting notes or referencing any files. Her voice, though quiet, was incredibly clear and precise, filled with an almost surgical understanding of the complex data. She spoke of pattern anomalies and unconventional pathways with a casual familiarity that visibly stunned the room. She showed them how their current projections were missing crucial, subtle indicators, tiny data points that only someone deeply immersed in the raw, flowing information stream could have possibly identified. She then pointed to a specific cluster of seemingly random activity on the digital map, meticulously explaining how it wasn't random at all, but rather a cleverly disguised preparation for a critical enemy maneuver. She used simple, understandable terms to explain highly complex algorithms, making the intricate details accessible even to those without a technical background. Her insights weren't mere theory. They were directly actionable, demonstrating precisely how a slight adjustment in their approach could transform a potential disaster into a significant strategic advantage. As she continued to speak, the atmosphere in the room underwent a dramatic transformation. The low murmurs that had filled the air moments before died completely. The cynical expressions that had been etched on many faces melted away, replaced by furrowed brows of intense concentration, then by knowing nods of dawning realization, and finally, by genuine awe. Officers across the table began to scribble furiously in their notebooks, trying to keep pace with the torrent of groundbreaking information she was providing. The major, who had been so frustrated just moments ago, now leaned forward, his eyes wide with a mix of shock and undeniable respect. The colonel, who had dismissed her with a scoff earlier, now looked utterly absorbed, clearly recognizing the profound depth of her operational understanding. Her quiet presence, once so easily mistaken for timidity, now powerfully filled the entire room with an undeniable authority. She had not only solved their critical problem, but had also revealed a depth of knowledge that clearly surpassed their own. If you believe true strength shines brightest in quiet moments and respect is earned through action, not words, then join us. Subscribe to Quiet Soldier Stories.